Yo, what it do, y'all? Long time no see, but we are back in full effect here on Fandom Frequency. And today we're diving into my most anticipated MCU project of the year. And I'm talking about Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, aka essentially the Netflix Daredevil Season 4. Make sure you drop your thoughts down below in those comments, hit the buttons and all that. Make sure you interact with the video so the algorithm is kind to us, and make sure to share us with all you geeks out there in the world of fandom today. So join the community, subscribe, and all that good jazz. But with no further ado, with full on spoilers, we're going to be diving into the first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again. And I got to say, overall, were my expectations met? For the most part, yes. Not quite as good as the Netflix Daredevil, but with tempering my expectations and kind of expecting it not to be quite as good, but hopefully be a worthy successor. I am overall very satisfied with the final product of what we got so far with Daredevil Born Again. And just jumping into it right here with that shocking death of Foggy Nelson right at the top of the fucking season in episode 1. The whole one-shot sequence and everything with Daredevil going against Bullseye, and Bullseye just taking people out, not missing anything as usual. And fucking Daredevil's got hella knives in him and everything, and almost damn near kills him after he confirms for himself with his supersonic hearing and all that Foggy is indeed gone. And the whole way that they tee this up and setting this up into the fact of Matt Murdock wanting to give up the Daredevil persona and just use the law in order to try to fight crime and do it above board and not go into the vigilante kind of lifestyle anymore is a very interesting arc to pick up with Matt Murdock going through this season. And I love the way that they tee it up in this tragic way, because I think it totally justifies his decision. It makes a lot of sense and adds a lot of weight to the situation of what's going on, and it's really going to sit with the character as someone that is his best friend and like his brother. It's a terrible loss that he must feel, and terrible guilt at the same time. So the way that they're able to weave that in those first few minutes really sets this off with a bang. And I wanted to start this episode off with a bang. So just jumping right into that, a lot of people were kind of theorizing that both him and Karen Page were going to get killed, but luckily Karen is still alive and everything's going well for the most part with her. It's now a year later that the episode jumps to, and now Matt's just, living his lawyer life at a new firm, doing his thing, ends up meeting a therapist that he ends up dating and whatnot. But he also is coming into contact with none other than Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, back in full effect here, and now officially running for mayor of New York City. And this is going to be a big character arc that's going to carry throughout the entire season. But this first episode really tees up where he's been all this time, ties in everything going on with his conversation with Matt about Echo and him trying to mentor her, and how they're tying this all in with the actual MCU canon full on now, unlike back in the day where they refer to the whole Battle of New York as the incident and everything with the Avengers and the green guy instead of saying the Hulk, and how it was very, 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 very loosely connected to the MCU back in the Netflix days. But now it's full on MCU canon, and seeing them acknowledge these certain things in Hawkeye and certain things that went on in Echo, to me, is really awesome. And them really being able to establish the Rogers musical in the background when you get the shot of the backdrop of downtown New York or Manhattan or wherever the hell that is. I love the way they're able to tie all this stuff in seamlessly. And that whole like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino scene out of Heat right here with the conversation of Matt Murdock with Wilson Fisk in this first episode is so phenomenally written, so well done, so well acted. But no big surprise there with Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox coming back to reprise the roles that have pretty much made those guys' careers, at least Vincent D'Onofrio's in this modern era, and definitely made Charlie Cox more of a household name than he's ever been before, or closer to that status than he's ever been before as an actor in his career. So overall, really well done. I really love the way that they're teeing up this arc of them both trying to change from the men that they were, but inherently having those flaws and having those things inside of them that make them who they are, whether that's for better or for worse. It seems like they're both going to kind of fall back into what's going on, because as we get into things with episode 2 and then furthering the plot of Matt getting intertwined with White Tiger and his vigilantism, or his vigilante work ended up getting him in trouble with the law, and a cop ends up getting murdered, and he's blamed for the murder and has a manslaughter charge that he's on trial for, and Matt decides to represent him. Obviously, relating to that character in the fact that he was a vigilante himself, but also knows that he's telling the truth with his abilities, but also knows that there's something that the guy is keeping from him. And then they eventually find out in a bit of a convenient way, I may add, that he is White Tiger and everything like that. And I love the interplay between Matt Murdock and his client, and the way that this all ties into the man that he once was, to what he's trying to get away from, and how this all very much thematically ties in to what's going on right now, because Daredevil isn't active in Hell's Kitchen in these specific boroughs of New York, and there's no one there really to kind of fight the crime like they were doing. So people like White Tiger and now Muse's crazy ass are stepping into the playing field, along with the Punisher, I think, still being out there and still working behind the scenes, lurking around, doing his thing. I think with all these vigilantes kind of running wild, some killing others, some not, I think that's really going to raise up the whole issue of registration that Kingpin was presenting in episode 2, and kind of being a big mission statement for him running for mayor, and something that he really wants to get across, is something that's on his agenda to get done during his term. And I think that's all going to come to pass and really tee things up for all the superhero characters to begin with. The Avengers team that Sam Wilson's now building post Captain America Brave New World. Once again, it's a spoiler review, so if you're not caught up on the MCU, you already had a warning from the title, but just throwing this out there one last time. Spoiler alert if you don't want to go any further. But overall, how this all can tie together in the MCU, I think, has a lot of strong possibilities just from things that they've set up in just 2 episodes of the 9-episode season that is Daredevil Born Again. And to me, very, very, very impressive stuff going on there. And some of the other big positives and some of the big recap portions of it as well is the fact that Matt is seemingly kind of doing things against the law and having to find himself in fights for his life, not as Daredevil, but as Matt Murdock. And I think that's all going to play really interesting in a very interesting way until he ends up putting on the costume once again, because obviously it's titled Daredevil. We know he's going to be in the suit again. We know we see him fighting Muse and other things like that from quick clips in the trailers. So we know that's all to come in probably the midway or back half of the season. But for the moment, I really love what they're doing with Matt Murdock's character and the way that he's still kind of fighting for the good, still kind of doing what's right. And the fact that he represented the Punisher before and is now representing White Tiger, I think all really lines up very well with the previous series. And this kind of being bridged together, I think, has been really well done and really awesome so far. And I love how this really does feel like a great continuation of the Netflix show, and does capture a lot of the vibe, a lot of the crime noir type feel to it is still present here. The gritty and violent nature of the show is still very present. The cinematography is different, and it definitely has more of a sleek Disney Plus MCU look to it. But overall, they still keep some of the really cool, darker lighting and some of the cool contrasted scenes, especially like with the battle with Bullseye and the attack in the beginning of the season, and some of the fight scenes with Matt Murdock towards the end of episode 2, and some of the footage of White Tiger as well. I think has some more of that Netflix vibe to it. But there are some moments and aspects of the series or the show so far that doesn't quite feel like the Netflix show, and definitely gives it a little bit of a different feel. But they don't lose the DNA of what makes the show special. And to me, that is uber important, and one of the main things going into it that I was looking out for as a fan. So for me, I think they did all of that justice. And once again, the acting, the action, the choreography, the score, the effects, all that stuff is still top notch and is really well done here. And a lot of really cool and different camera work going on, because I think they seemingly do have a bigger budget for this series. And I think the ways that they're able to implement these new resources, but keep a lot of the older aesthetic kind of blended together with it, I think overall is still very well done. And yeah, so I think this first 2-episode premiere is super kick-ass, definitely worth your time. Even if you haven't watched the previous 3 seasons of Daredevil, I think you can still come into this one pretty fresh and get an understanding of what the character's about, what's going on, and still be what's the word I'm looking for? Still be invested in the story and be willing to go on this ride for the overall 9-episode season. We're going to be doing these reviews every single week here moving forward as we get through the Daredevil Born Again series. And I think I'm going to do a ranking of all 4 seasons of Daredevil television that have been out there if you don't want to necessarily call this a season 4, technically you can't, or you shouldn't, I guess. So whatever. But we're gonna rank all the previous Netflix seasons with this one once it's all wrapped up and I've had a chance to think about it and formulate my thoughts and everything like that. So that'll be coming out in April sometime. We got Andor season 2 coming up around that time as well, which is gonna be dope. And I really have dug all the stuff we've seen for that so far. And we're gonna be doing more movie reactions, and I got some other fun niche movie ideas and different things coming up. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't sleep. Thanks for checking us out. For all of you that stuck around to the end, I appreciate y'all so much. Share this with your friends, family, and coworkers and all that. Just make sure to let them know it's not safe for work. But this is Phantom Frequency. We'll catch you again real soon. And until then, much love and peace out, y'all.